Let's go, guys. I got the whole place to myself.
And I stole it. It's called capitalism.
Please be fast, X. I need another one. Oh, sync copy. Oh shit, Oppenheimer. Fuck yeah. Am I gonna feel the bomb go off? Let's fucking go. Boom. People watching Barbie gonna have a riot. The juxtaposition in movies this time of year, these two are gonna fight it out. Hello everyone and welcome back and welcome to the new people. Today we're talking about The Flash. Now I know I'm a little late, but the longer between the release of a movie and the time that I review a movie, the more better put together my thoughts are and the more in-depth of a review that I can give you guys. Where do I begin with The Flash? This movie is a bit tricky to talk about. It's one of the last entries into the DCU, DCEU, DCCU, whatever you want to call it, that's coming to an end before James Gunn hits the button, which I think I'm just about ready for because this wasn't it. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Flash TV show. I have a couple of the Blu-rays here. I reviewed the entire first season of that show, episode by episode. That's here on the channel if you want to check that out. I'm very much in love with Grant Gustin's interpretation of this character. To me, he suits Barry Allen much more than Ezra Miller ever has. Although I am open to new interpretations of this character, Ezra Miller just doesn't really fit for me as the Flash. He's never felt like the Flash. He feels like Ezra Miller playing a very good, awkward, fast-talking type of character. Like the archetype, he fits it well, but it just isn't Barry Allen at his core. I am going to talk very light spoilers, only about things that were in the trailer, just in case you're completely in the dark. I am going to talk about the things in the movie that were in the trailer. Ezra Miller's Flash has always worked better as comedic relief to a bigger story or a bigger group like the Justice League. Having a character like that can be quite obnoxious all the time, helming his own movie, could get old very quickly. And this movie, it has been said before, I'm kind of echoing things other people have said about this, but it does reign true and I feel the same way, that introducing a second Barry that's more obnoxious and forcing the original Barry to mature up real quickly because he has to look after this other toddler-like version of himself was a smart choice. Ezra Miller does a solid job, but I can't look past the things he's done in real life. If you don't know about the allegations, I'm not going to get into them here, but the man has done some crazy stuff. The guy's kind of off the rails. And if you're going to be a superhero, you can't be like this in real life. I know it shouldn't attest to the quality of this film, and if you didn't know about it, it might change the way that you look at the film, but these things happened and they do exist, and I'm aware of them. And it does affect the film because it made the marketing for this movie very messy. This movie's had one of the most troubled productions I've ever seen. They've gone through like 6 directors trying to get it done. And spite the directors and the 5 or so years it took to get this movie done, I mean, the idea for it was floating around back when the very first season of the Flash TV show started, so like 2014. It's taken like 9 years to get this to really happen. Despite that, it actually came out about as good as this movie possibly could have been, considering the circumstances. Now, does that mean this film is a masterpiece? No, it is not a masterpiece. It's still a Flash movie with Ezra Miller doing the Flashpoint storyline while Warner Brothers is trying to capitalize on the multiverse and trying to throw cameos and all sorts of things like that at you. It's still that, but about as good as that possibly could have been. Let's talk about Michael Keaton's Batman. Keaton kills it in whatever the hell he happens to touch, and this is about as well integrated as this Batman could have possibly been. Having Burton's dark interpretation of Batman mixing in the same world as Ezra Miller's Flash was just something that was never going to work properly. I do want to say the throwback lines like the "let's get nuts" are a lot better in the movie than they are in the trailer. In the trailer, they're a bit like, oh my, that doesn't look great. Thankfully, I was wrong about this. I thought it was going to be a mess. Everything was telling me, from the production to Ezra Miller, that this was just not going to be it. And it isn't, but it's a lot better than I thought it would be. Maybe it's because I'm a sucker for the Flash, especially the Flashpoint storyline. It resonates with me personally on a deeper level, so I'm a little biased in my thoughts on this. Like, I got very emotional towards the end of the film, and I usually don't. But that shows that the movie does have some emotional weight, and it's not just a soulless cash grab. But actually, thinking about it right now, I don't know whether it's because these interpretations of the characters are actually really investing, or I'm just invested in this type of story. I'll give you an example, right? Let's talk about Aunt May for a second. If Aunt May dies in No Way Home, are we crying because we really cared about that interpretation of Aunt May, or is it because we've had a long lineage of decades of history with this character and we're carrying that emotional weight into the moment rather than just who this specific version of the character is? I don't know if this makes any sense, but I think that I might have been messed with, alright? They might have pulled on my heartstrings a bit. Because we don't get that much development in terms of his parents. They're kind of fleeting. They're there for the beats that need to be there. The budget for this movie is huge. And I think almost all of it went to Ezra Miller's legal fees because it sure as hell didn't go into the CGI. That's probably the biggest flaw with this movie. And sometimes, like, I can look past some dodgy effects, but when they're that bad that you were laughing at them, and I had the theater to myself, yeah, no, it wasn't good. I'm talking, this is some X-Men Origins Wolverine shit. Like, I could not believe how bad it looked, considering it's 2023. And we've just had things like Avatar 2, The Way of Water, and how that looks. The difference being that this is clearly a product of the troubled production. They probably had the VFX artists overworked across 5 years and told them, oh, we don't need this shot anymore, but now actually we need all these new shots right in the last edit before we ship this movie out, and they don't know what to work on, what they're doing, they don't have enough time, and it's definitely what's happened here. And I'm pretty sure of it, not just because VFX artists get overworked, it does happen a lot, and it's bad. It's really not good. I would have much rather waited 2 more years for this to look incredible rather than have it right now. But I'm sure because every time they do the double Barry effect, they have like the mature Barry and the very obnoxious one, you can so clearly tell that one is CGI and the other one is not, and they switch them back and forth every now and then, but you can tell every shot. Now, we've had camera tricks before where you can film one plate with one actor and then move the camera in the exact same way, although very difficult, and then redo it with them standing in the other spot and comp the 2 shots together. And that's not been done once. So it very much tells me that even the filming and possible reshoots were rushed. And that for me speaks volumes of what the VFX artists have had to go through. As seen in the trailer, Supergirl is in the movie and she's good, but it's tricky because she isn't pre-established like Keaton's Batman or Ezra Miller's Flash. She's completely new, so they haven't got anything established to run off of, and there's not really enough time by the time we get to her in the film to really give her more moments to shine and to flesh her out as a character. Most of the running scenes are pretty cool, despite the dodgy CGI. There are some cool ideas. I specifically like one at the start where Barry goes from, I'm going to assume it's Central City to Gotham, even though it is a bit dodgy. The only thing I don't like with the running, and it's a bit hit or miss, it's very much opinion, but it's how he runs, and he's running like at a normal speed, but just moving super quickly. I much prefer what this Flash does, where his legs are just moving that fast you can't keep up. And the reality is, it's neither one of those. If that was to happen, it's a mix, because yes, the faster you move your legs, the more momentum you're carrying, the more distance between your steps. But it's not going to be anything like the movie one, where the bounds are so big, because you've got to be able to turn and move. In the TV show, it's stepping every single step a normal person would take, which doesn't really make sense either. I prefer that a bit more, but it needs to be somewhere in the middle, because when he's running the way he does in this movie, he looks like he's on ice skates. They do have a joke in the film to point fun at the fact that it looks like that, but that doesn't mean that you're still not doing it. The structure and the subplots in this film are messy. It starts with a concrete idea with, okay, we're going to do Flashpoint, but then it's like, okay, Zod's become a problem, so we're going to need to try and find Superman if we can, and then we're just dealing with that for a while, and the film kind of seems like it's in nowhere land, and then they go to try and get Superman, and by the time they get to Zod, it's like, wait, so is this the actual problem, or are we going to deal with the Reverse Flash, or who is the real villain here? Because this whole thing is a different timeline, and what's going on? It's a tricky movie to talk about because some of the character moments are really strong. When Keaton is going for it, and they're blaring Danny Elfman's theme, I mean, yeah, you're picking on the nostalgia strings there. You're blowing my mind, I can't believe what I'm seeing, even though a lot of it's CG and that takes me out a bit. But being able to see Keaton's Batman move in a way that we've never been able to see before, specifically at a breakout scene, had me like, yes, this is great. But the way the movie's stitched together as a final piece, it's so messy. It hurts the movie not having a solid villain. Because you should know, even though you see Zod in the trailers and all that, and he is a villain, and he has a presence, I think Michael Shannon was only filming for like 2 weeks, and I can't remember him saying like a single line in this movie. It's like they just CGI'd him there, and if he says nothing or does nothing new of substance, it feels like a waste. He's in the movie, but he doesn't feel like he's there. I don't think he even sees the Flash, or the Flash even really sees him, or I don't think they even interact or say anything to each other. So it doesn't really feel like he's the villain. There's no personal stakes in it at all. It's just noise for the sake of noise. Heavily relying on the fact that there's Michael Keaton's Batman, that nostalgia, we don't care, we just want to see him do some cool shit. There are some cameos that will please some fans, I think, because they show up in a way that's, hey, look at this, without actually having any importance to the film, and they didn't even need to be there. They don't do anything other than, hey, look. And so what's the point? They went as far as to get someone back that couldn't be back for this movie. And while it's a surprise for about 2 seconds, it suddenly feels wasted. And so yeah, it feels a tiny bit disrespectful. I'm not sure how to put it. You'll know if you've seen the movie, but that's me. There's other people that are just gushing about this, and I don't know, something about it doesn't feel right to me. Cameos like what they did are not the direction I want to see this franchise or movies in general go in. Now, the basic plot of Flashpoint in comics, and they even did it in the TV show, is that Barry's basically had enough. He goes back in time, he says, I'm going to stop my mum from dying, and I'm just going to live out a normal life. I just want to see my mum again. He goes back, does that, he's living in a timeline where things didn't happen before realizing that, hang on, that means he probably wouldn't get his powers, and it just changes everything. But he eventually realizes that it's wrong and tries to go back and restore the timeline to what it was. And the movie follows that loosely. I'm not giving away too much, but then the film makes a decision where it basically goes back on the entire lesson learnt from doing that and playing with timelines, and the movie wants to be like, yeah, we're all good with that. And it makes the movie feel like a waste of time. What was the point? What did Barry learn? Why did we need to see any of this if Barry's gonna make the same mistake he just made? There was no growth with the character. This movie is all over the place, just like everybody's thoughts about it. Some people really love this movie. The reviews that were coming out got me excited for the movie, even though I wasn't initially. We even had Tom Cruise praising it, so some hype was there. And then you got some people that think that this is a complete disaster and a train wreck, and I guess it's going to be up to you what you think of the movie. At the end of the day, it's a business and money talks, and the movie is currently bombing. It's not doing well, but that can be because of numerous things. We just had Across the Spider-Verse, which showed that you can do this kind of thing way better. It could be the fatigue of just the DC movies in general and the timeline and what's going on. The younger generations being in the loop like me about James Gunn and what's going to happen and not really caring about what's going to go on with this movie. It could even be the things that Ezra Miller has done in real life that have made people go, no, I'm just not going to support that. For me, it was an enjoyable watch, but I am ready for James Gunn to hit that big reset button at this point. I think we've only got 2 more things to go, that being Aquaman, The Last Kingdom, I think it's The Last Kingdom, which will be November sometime, and then the Blue Beetle, or Blue Beetle, it might just be Blue Beetle, which is supposed to come out before Aquaman, The Last Kingdom, and I don't know why, but James Gunn has said, no, this Blue Beetle project, this is the first thing that's going to be part of my universe. This thing actually counts. And from what everybody's seeing about it, it doesn't look good. I don't know why James Gunn is throwing his hat into the ring with that when he doesn't have to. I'd be cleaning my hands with everything and just starting hard with your brand new Superman movie. What, we're really gonna start this with Blue Beetle? Anyways, I hope the longer review makes up for the fact that it's been some time since the movie came out. For me, The Flash is gonna get a 5 out of 10. It's average. I don't hate this by a long shot, but I don't love it either, and it just sits at average. It's not great, it's not bad, I'm kind of indifferent on it. For me, it's not the Flash movie that I want. So The Flash, have you guys seen it? What did you think? Let me know down below. I want to hear your thoughts on it because personally, I came out and I was a bit indecisive. There were things that just were not good, specifically that CGI. But then character moments towards the end where I was feeling the emotion so much I was almost in tears. So I don't know what the hell to think. But that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think. If you haven't already, consider subscribing. If we get to 1,000, I'm going to be talking about every single movie on this shelf. I've said that a lot of times before, but we have a lot of new people here, so there you go, we're almost halfway. As always guys, if you've made it to the end of the video, you're a bloody legend, and hopefully I'll catch you guys next time. Bye guys.